All right, everyone, you caught me there with my pants down. I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing and it showed me too early. Welcome to the third and final segment of Hate Live. I'm going to be honest, I ran late with all the other stuff I had to talk about. I thought I was going to be done with that stuff in an hour, and we're almost done. We got like 20 minutes to go here on the show. So what I may do a two-parter about Circuit City, my employment at Circuit City for a back in the day segment, because I don't have too much time to go here. We'll see. But let's start. My back in the day segment for tonight is going to be talking about my employment at a business called Circuit City. Now, for those of you who don't know what Circuit City is, maybe you don't live in the United States, all right, or you just haven't been in the business world in the past 10 years or so. Circuit City used to be a major electronics retailer in the United States of America. I think they also were up in Canada as well, but I'm not 100% positive about that. And they were very on par. I guess the best comparison that I could compare them with would be like Fry's or Best Buy. Both of those businesses still exist to this day. Circuit City does not. And I think that the reason that Circuit City does not exist in today's day and age is because they were a business that was really 1980s and 90s focused, and they really had a business model that worked well in the 80s and 90s. And then when they hit the 2000s and things started to change, they didn't really keep up with the times. I'll explain about that in this back in the day segment, okay? So there was a time in my life when I was in a college. Excuse me. Some of you may call it university. Some of you may call it higher learning, whatever you call it. It's basically this time a 4-year course load where you go to a higher school above what's considered high school here in the United States, and you're basically studying to be whatever you want to be. Do you want to be, someone in the financial field? Do you want to be someone in the arts? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a lawyer? And of course, a lawyer has to go to way more school, just like a doctor and stuff like that. And so during this time period, I was commuting. I wasn't a live-in student. I was commuting from my parents' house to university and back. And I had bills. I had gas bills. I had credit card bills. I had bills of all kinds of expenses and things to go to school. And so I needed to work. I was not one of the, unfortunately, I was not one of the fortunate people, young people, who had a free ride paid for them by their parents and didn't have to worry about paying bills or anything. I had to pay a lot of it myself. So I had to find employment in order for myself to go to college. And I decided to look all around during this time period. And as I've told you guys before, in my previous life, before YouTube, I actually used to fiddle with computers. I used to build computers. I actually built 3 high-end gaming PCs from the ground up in the early 2000s. I had them networked at my parents' house, and people would come over and we'd do a network match online playing like Unreal Tournament and stuff like that. So I was a real techie kind of guy. And because of that, I thought, gee, what kind of a job would I want to have? Now, at the same time, I was a very independent-minded person. If you saw me at that time period in my life, I'd be wearing like either a wrestling t-shirt from like I was a big fan of pro wrestling, as you guys know, or I'd be wearing some kind of a character t-shirt, you know what I mean? It would be something like that. I'd be wearing very skater-ish kind of stuff too, like I wore Vaughn sneakers and stuff like that, and skater-style shorts. That was kind of fad group that I belonged to during those college years, all right? And so I actually went, excuse me, I went around looking for jobs. I applied at several different places. One place that I had gone to was a complete flop. It ended up not paying me. It was a shitty internship. I don't know if I've told you guys about that before, selling life insurance. But then finally, I went into Circuit City, and I got an interview scheduled. And I remember the day of the interview because I was an idiot. Like most people, like today I'm much more mature. I'm 33 years old. I know about stuff. When I was 20 years old, I think I was about 20 years old when this happened. The day of my interview, I come into the interview with like messed up, like not good looking hair, with, I was unshaven. I remember I had like a stubbly beard. I had a, character shirt on. I think I was wearing like these skater style shoes with like red shoelaces. And I walk in, I sit down for the interview. And the store manager was actually interviewing me, and he was actually a younger guy. He was I'd probably say mid-30s tops. So he was about my age, only it was 13 years ago. And he's interviewing me. And he's asking me all these questions about selling. He's also asking me about different departments. I said, obviously, I would definitely like to work in the PC department. because I know all this knowledge about techie kind of stuff. Now, the funny thing is, I've told you guys about this before. I'm a well-spoken person. As you can hear now, I'm well-spoken. I could do a 2-hour show on the fly, unrehearsed, and I'm easily able to do it. I'm a very good public speaker. And so when I was answering his questions and I was speaking this way, he was very taken with me. He's like, wow. He's like, at the end of the interview, I remember, it was like maybe a 20-minute interview. At the end of the interview, he goes, wow. He goes, you really impressed me. You have knowledge of product. It seems like you're good, a good speaker, good with people. He said, I got to ask you something, Phil. Why the hell did you come to the interview dressed up like that? Like, most people would come in here, with a tie or and a button-down shirt and nice slacks, or they would dress up for the interview to look nice. Why did you come in here looking like that? And I said, because the bottom line is, I don't want you hiring me for how I look. I want you hiring me, for my intelligence, for my sales ability, because that's what's going to sell computers, not because I look a certain way. So I could be coming here in a fucking tuxedo and be a bumbling idiot and be the worst employee ever. What would that matter? I'm going to come in looking natural and then sell you on me. And the guy was like, that's the best answer I've ever heard. And he hired me on the spot. He really did. He said, you're starting on this day. Your training will start this weekend or whatever, right? And it was great. I mean, that was awesome. That was the best interview I ever had in my life. It really was. Like, I felt confident walking out of there. Like, damn, I did it all right. And so I remember when I first started working, they didn't let you work in the PC area because the PC area was considered like the high-end area with a lot of high-dollar items. So they had me training all over the store. They had me over in speakers. Then they had me in media where you would sell DVDs and games and stuff like that. They had me in cameras in particular a lot. The one place I never worked was car audio because I didn't know jack shit about car audio. I would have been talking out of my ass. And also stereo systems and stuff like that I didn't know too much about. TVs, every once in a while, they would put me in the TV section. But even then, that was kind of like one of the high-end areas that they would try to have TV-acquainted people work in. So, I actually remember when I first started working there, it was this interim transitional time for Circuit City because if you could believe it, 6 months prior to when I was hired, Circuit City had been based off of commission-based sales. Now, if you don't know what that means, it means that it's not about you come in and you make a solid paycheck that's like a certain amount an hour and that's a good paycheck. It's you go in and you make money based off of what you sell. So if you sell a high-end PC with a keyboard and all this software for it, you get a big cut of that, and that's your pay. So the more you sell, the more money you make. And it was kind of cutthroat like that because there were some salespeople at Circuit City who were like the big fish, the big sellers. They were the ones who could really sell a ton of shit, right? And Circuit City, for whatever reason, business-wide, decided to cut this practice off, and they got rid completely of the commission-based sales and made it hourly. And that's really why I was hired with no real sales experience, because it was an hourly job. So there were people who were working there who were like, well, this is my job and I'm good at it, but they kind of had like these weird arrangements where they were to be paid way more money for a certain amount of time, and then eventually it would go away. So it was weird because it was like this old guard of like maybe 8 to 10 guys who were like middle-aged guys who were working there, professional salesmen, but they were like, we're not going to stay here forever because we were told after like 6 months our paycheck's going to dip, but we're getting this compensation for being great, like commission-based salespeople for so long and being here. So it was almost like the old guard training the new guard, but the old guard made a shitload of money working there on commission, and they're like giving us a pat on the back like, you're going to be doing all the hard work we did and making like 1/10 what we did, so good luck with that, assholes. And I was like, damn, that really sucks, because just think about that. Commission-based, just like, for example, what I do now on YouTube. View-based. Really what I do on YouTube is commission-based. Based on how many people I can get to watch my content, I make a certain amount of money. If my content's better or more entertaining, I make more money. If it's not as good, I make less money. Same thing. If you sell more stuff, make more. Sell less, you make less. So it's all about your actual personal performance. And it wasn't like that. When I got hired, it was like, nope, guess what? Hourly. And I remember, I think at that point, it was like $10 an hour. I want to say it was around $10 an hour. I think $10.50 an hour was when I started. And I definitely remember, being trained by these big dogs, right? These guys who, basically their time there was limited. They were getting paid exorbitant amounts of hourly money just so that they would train the new people before they were out the door because they wanted to go to commission-based businesses where they can make more money. And so I remember that. And then, of course, when you actually get down to it and you learn about the ins and outs of selling electronics and an electronics business, you find out the silly stuff. Like, for example, customer comes in to buy a PC. They want to buy a PC that does a certain thing. Now, your job is to make sure that they buy the PC that does the certain thing, okay? But here's what you don't realize, is that this is what I was trained at this job to do. Do not oversell the customer. Do not sell them the $1,000 PC if they only need a $500 one. No, no, no. Don't do that, because actually, these companies like Circuit City, Best Buy, Fry's, these electronics retailers don't make a lot of money on the base hardware. Same thing goes with game consoles. If you don't know this, when you buy a game console at a retailer, they make $0. They sell it at cost. What they make their money on is all the accessories that you pile on top of it. All the extended warranties and protection plans that they pile on top of it. That's where the money and profit is made on these things, okay? So a guy would come in and say, listen, all I need is a very basic PC to do word processing. It's for my kid to do their high school homework. I'd say, great, buy this $299, what was it called? Celeron processor PC right here. Oh, but you said that it's your kid, right? They need Microsoft Office Student Edition. That's $100. Oh, but their kid, they need a printer to print out their homework. Here's a printer here for $200. Oh, but you need the $30 USB cable that doesn't come with the printer, and you need extra ink, and you need paper. Oh, but I also bet that they need internet. So here's a demo disc for this internet service. They would walk out of there looking for a $300 computer. They would walk out of there spending $800 with all this shit, half of which they probably will never even hook up. And that's how these businesses made their money. Oh, of course, the extended warranty. That was the biggest fucking thing. Get the extended warranty because the manufacturer will only cover you for up to 1 year, and it's only on manufacturer's defects. So if you buy this and it's found that the RAM stick dies within 6 months, they'll cover that. But if you bring this home and it just won't turn on, they're not going to fix that. Unless you can blatantly prove that there's a hardware malfunction, they won't fix it. You need to have this extended warranty. You'll bring it in here. We'll outsource it to a company that'll fix it for you, or we'll reimburse you the cost. From what I'm to understand, those extended warranties never work, and probably about 1% of the people who buy them actually go to the store, trade back in whatever it is that broke, and get either their money back or get it repaired. It's a complete, utter fucking scam. And I remember I sold so many of those fucking things. I felt so bad because I knew people would never get. And there were people who bought it, right? And came to me in the department. You sold me this and I can't get the service I need to fix my PC. And I'm like, what do you want from me? I didn't fucking create the program. I just sold you on what I was told to sell by management. Go complain to my manager. And that was how I had to handle it. So it was funny because during these days, I didn't really learn that much about PCs working there because I already known about PCs. I learned a lot about digital cameras because right next to the PC department was the digital camera department. And I learned about SLR lenses. I learned about digital versus optical zoom. I learned about how there's internal memory versus the external, memory card memory. I learned about different scene modes in different cameras. I learned about different resolution. The thing back then was megapixels. And today, let's be honest, today you buy an iPhone, right? Your iPhone is probably like an 8 megapixel camera built into it. So today you can get anything you want, you can get an amazing picture using any device. Back then, cameras were shit. Like, you get a 2 megapixel camera, your picture looked like shit, and people would come back all angry. I'm like, but you bought a 2 megapixel camera. I told you the 4 megapixel looks amazing, and it's only $50 more, but you wanted to go El Cheapo, and now you're complaining to me that your shots look like shit. That's your fault. And that was the thing. Megapixels was the big thing back then. Now it was, 13 years ago, cameras were so different. Technology has really advanced so much differently since then. It's just exponential growth. And I remember people used to walk out there spending $1,000 for like a 5 megapixel camera, a bag, a memory card, and a battery. And it would be like, are you serious? Just for 5 megapixel shots, which today on your phone you can get better shots than that. It's out of control. So I remember just a few fun stories, because I have a lot to talk about Circuit City, but I know that I'm running out of time at this point. So a couple fun stories. One quick one. I actually remember at one point, our Circuit City was flagged as one of the circuit cities in the district that had the highest amount of product loss. And it was determined that there was internal theft and or some kind of a theft ring going on, that people were finding a way to sneak product out of the building, okay? Now, of course, I always did my job. I always did due diligence. I was watching at night when things were going on, when the store was closing, to make sure the doors were securely sealed and, nothing, no funny business was going on. But it was funny because at night, like, nothing would be locked up. And what I mean by that is you would have your PC display where your PC would be on the top shelf of a desk, right? You would have your PC here, your whatever, your tag to show how much it costs and what's inside of it. The PC would be directly below it. So if you're going to make the sale, you just grab the PC and go. And it makes sense, but nothing was secure. There was a back door right there at the back of where someone could just push the door, walk right out with the PC, and if no one's looking, they could have escaped with it. And so I remember at this one point, they brought in, oh my God, it must have cost thousands of dollars. They started building secure cages around the PCs. So you had like cages around with some of them were plexiglass, like lockers, and others were like metal cages. And you needed keys upon keys to get, into these things to get the PC out of the. So now you're going to make a sale, right? Oh, okay, I'm going to make a sale. All right, sorry, hold on, sir. I have to go find my supervisor, who's probably busy on the other side of the store. I have no clue where he is, and we don't have walkie-talkies, so I can't call him. So I gotta go find him, hopefully get the keys. By the way, I'm not allowed to have the keys, because I'm just a lowly, regular salesperson. So I have to find the ground floor supervisor to get the keys to come over here to open the cage to get your PC. And the guy's like, fuck you, and he'll leave. He's like, I'm not gonna wait 45 minutes to get my PC. Forget this. So, really funny. So basically, I remember it was a big snafu. But here's the funniest part about the whole thing. They hired a loss prevention manager who was basically supposed to be studying everything going on in the store. I want to know what's going on in this store, who's stealing what or whatever. She supervised putting all these cages in, right? All these cages. Okay. 1 week after all this stuff was put in, we had the largest loss of product in the store's history. It was something like 4 high-end PCs, the highest end, the media towers, the ones that were multimedia towers, they cost like thousands of dollars each. Those went missing. Car audio stuff went missing. Everything went missing, right? What happened? How could this be? How could this possibly be? Apparently, the loss prevention manager was such a fucking idiot. She had the cage with the highest dollar product, I kid you not, positioned next to the back door. So all that happened, whoever it was internally that was stealing all this product, they would wait for the very end of the night. They would put a piece of cardboard in the back door so they could get in. They would look, oh, everything's secure, right? So now they can get in. So they wait for everyone to leave. Because this, by the way, the Circuit City was at the mall, so it was a mall parking lot. It was a public parking lot. It was easy to drive away, hide out in the parking lot, wait for everyone to leave and come back. Come right back, zoop. Oh, look at this. Push the door opens. Okay. And then they would just jimmy the lock on the cage. It's right next to the back door, which takes 5 seconds. Boop. Steal the PCs, load them into a pickup truck, drive away. And they got all this on camera. Seriously. They got the whole thing on camera. And it's like, you spent thousands of dollars to upgrade your store to prevent loss prevention, and then you put the highest dollar product near the fucking door, so there was no chance anyone could have caught this guy doing what he was doing. So that was one case. And there was another case I remembered. I don't think they ever caught that guy, by the way. They never caught the guy who was doing it. I think he was a friend of a worker. I think the way that they explained it was someone who worked there was purposely putting the piece of cardboard in the back door so someone from the outside could push it open, but it wasn't the worker who stole the stuff. It must have been like a friend or an associate of the worker would come by at night and push the door open and get out of there, okay? But I really feel the silliest thing that ever happened there when it came to loss prevention, and this is probably where I'll end my back in the day, and I've got so much more to talk about that I didn't even scratch the surface. This will be the next back in the day segment I do again. We'll continue with stories of Circuit City, okay? I remember there was a guy who, he seemed like the nicest guy. And you know how when you know someone and they seem too nice, you know what I mean? Someone who just seems overly, incredibly fucking nice to everyone all the time. But it was funny because the guy would swear. You would hear him swear under his breath when he was pissed about something. And you could tell he wasn't like a super hyper, hi-de-ho, Ned Flanders from The Simpsons kind of guy. He was more just in person to people would act overly nice. I remember he was a kid. He was probably late 20s. He was older than me. And he was a short kid, but he was kind of pudgy, white kid, glasses, a little nerdy looking, but not necessarily a nerd. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he was into geeky stuff. He just kind of looked like that. I can't remember his name. And so I remember he had worked in the camera section and he would work in the video game section for about 6 to 8 months. And so he's relatively new. For like 2 months, he's a newcomer. He's just learning stuff anyway, right? And then after that, after the 2 or 3 months, they finally like treat him like a normal employee and he's working the floor. And then I remember after maybe he was there for 6 to 8 months, one day, he wasn't there. He was supposed to be working, okay? And he wasn't there. And I asked my manager what happened. He says, don't talk about it. We're going to have a big discussion about it in like a group meeting coming up. But just so you know, effective immediately, this employee was fired. And that's all you need to know. We will tell you later on what's going on with this employee. But he was fired, and actually, you know, some serious consequences, okay? I'm like, okay, damn, I wonder, because at this point, there was this ring going on, people stealing PCs and all this, so you're thinking, damn, this kid, did he make off with thousands of dollars of product or something, and he got fired because he got caught out for it? What is going on? So finally we had the meeting. And the manager, his name was Sly. I actually really liked him. I'll tell you stories of this guy. This guy talked about anal sex with women on the fucking job floor. This guy was wild. I'll tell you about this guy Sly more in the future as well. But anyway, we have the meeting, and the guy he tells us, he's like, so here's what happened. We noticed over the past, say, couple of weeks since we had this guy in the gaming section that games have been vanishing. And we couldn't figure it out, like, who was doing it. But he was the only real change to the areas that this guy had been put into the gaming section. And they started looking, and they actually found out that boxes, like empty game boxes for Game Boy Advance games, were being found all around the department, like torn apart, but the cartridges were missing. So they knew someone was doing it, but they didn't know who was doing it. And so they looked into it, and one night they caught him. It was late night. Again, it seems like all the theft happens around late night. Late night, people are supposed to be cleaning up and getting ready to close. So he was basically gathering games that were loose or whatever and locking them up or whatever. And he would just go, tear the box open, grab a bunch of them, put them in his backpack, because the kid, I guess, was like a college student, toss them in his backpack, because they were small, they didn't have the boxes with them, no security or nothing on the cartridge itself for the Game Boy Advance games. And every week, he would hightail it out of there with like a dozen Game Boy Advance games, okay? And it just blows my mind, because he said, listen, this was serious, like, because they had this big loss prevention thing going on with the store. They caught the kid, they held the kid, they called the police, the kid went to jail for theft. So we're talking a felony on his record, because he had stolen like a dozen games worth $30 each. I guess it went above whatever the requirement is that is considered like a felony on his record. This kid ruined his life to steal Game Boy Advance games. Now, I just got to say this, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say this. I do not condone theft. I do not condone misbehavior. I do not condone crime in any way, shape, or form. But if you're going to commit a crime and you're going to potentially lose your criminal record is going to be horrible. You're not going to be able to get a job now because you have a horrible criminal record. Make sure that the risk and reward are in level, all right? If I were going to steal from an electronics store, I would steal a high-dollar item. I would find a way to steal something that's worth $1,000 or more, so if I get caught and I ruin my life, hey, at least I had $5,000 of product on me. Now, I stole 10 Game Boy Advance games, so I basically ruined my life for $300. Like, that blows my mind. You know what I mean? Like, how dumb was the kid that he thought... Now, here's the thing. Maybe the kid got away with this for like 4 months. Who knows, right? But they said that they had just moved him to that department, and that's when they noticed it. So I doubt it, but that just... risk, reward should be on the same level. Now, I'm risking my entire livelihood. I'll never get hired again because I'm a felon, and I got $300 with Game Boy Advance games. I almost even guarantee you, seriously, he didn't even sell them. He probably was for him. stealing. He's probably one of these kleptos who can't help himself from stealing when he sees the opportunity. And he's sitting at home playing fucking, Mega Man, what was it, Battle Network or whatever on his fucking Game Boy Advance. And I don't know. That kills me. Because if you're going to be a criminal, go all the way and do it and make it worthwhile. Don't just be the petty idiot. And he was. And that was just really dumb. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone long. We've gone over 2 hours tonight on Hate Live. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show. The return of Hate Live after a 2-month hiatus. I'm tired out now from talking for 2 hours. I'm not used to this. I will save many more stories about Best Buy for next time, including characters. I'll tell you about my manager, Sly. I'll tell you about other people who worked in the store that were just really quirky, creepy people. Working Black Friday at Circuit City. That was a wild ride. All kinds of stuff. I actually went back there later on to look for a job again later on in my life. I'll tell you all about that stuff the next time that we do Hate Live. That will be the Back in the Day segment. So it'll be part 2 of Circuit City Stories. All right? So that is it, everyone, for Hate Live tonight. I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you had a lot of fun, whether you're watching on live stream or you're watching on YouTube. If you have watched this show and you enjoyed it, please spread the word. I haven't done one in 2 months. And the tendencies is that if something doesn't happen for 2 months, people tend to gravitate away. Let them know that I'm back, so maybe some people will come back and check out the show. I would hate that I come back after 2 months with a loaded, entertaining show, and people miss out on it, especially with the new audio setup and all the announcements and stuff that I had in this episode. They're definitely going to want to check it. Thanks very much, everyone, for being here. Have a good night. I will see you on the next Hate Live, whenever that may be. Keep in mind, you always find out when you watch things like my weekend preview video. You stay tuned to my Twitter, @TheyCallMeDSP. And, of course, I will give a gratuitous plug to my Patreon account, patreon.com/DarkSidePhil. Made this possible, made all the cool events that I've done over the past 2 months possible. Going to make this new montage series of Heavy Rain possible, the Persona 4 playthrough. The more people who pledge, the better content I can put out. It's a you give, you take, I take relationship, It works back and forth, and I hope that you enjoyed this show, and I hope that you enjoy all of my content. Thank you very much for your support. That's it, everyone. Have a good night. Peace out. I'm DarkSidePhil signing off. I'll see you for new gameplay real soon, and I'll see you next time on Hate Live.